So the next thing which is good to know about are your different drives that are in the computer. And we have a variety of different drives that we can install in the computer. And in system units like this one, or in cases like this one, there's often room to install additional drives. And so some of the drives that you'll find in a computer are like CD drives, DVD drives, Blu-ray drives, and of course there's different specifications for those types of drives. Like you might get a DVD player, but it can't burn discs, or you might get a DVD drive that also is able to burn discs. So there's different types of DVD, CD, Blu-ray drives which you can install on your computer. And then there's also your hard disk drive. And so there are two types of drives you might have in your computer now. One type of drive is called just HDD, hard disk drive. That's your hard disk drive, and that's the normal type of drive that pretty much everybody's gotten in computers for decades. And the new type of drive that is out there is your SSD. And SSD stands for your solid state drive. And solid state drives are better than hard disk drives because one, they're faster, and two, they're more durable. In solid state drives, there are no moving parts. And we're going to learn more about drives in a future, and storage in a future lecture a week or two from now. But the main thing to know is that solid state drives are more expensive because they are faster and they're more durable. There are no moving parts in a solid state drive. In hard disk drives, there are moving parts. There's something called a read-write head, which floats very close to the platter of the disk. And if you jostle a computer while that read-write head is moving, or while the computer is on, you might get a head crash. And so I like solid state drives better because, or they are preferable because they're faster and more durable. You aren't going to get a head crash with a solid state drive. But come over here and let's take a look at the different drives that we have inside this system unit. So if I can borrow the camera for a minute just to bring some stuff around. So right here, so here's the computer, and this would normally be the top. So if I was to set it up, there we go. So that's what the computer would look like if it was setting up in its normal position. And then inside right here, this is my first hard disk drive. So that's a hard disk drive. It's not a solid state drive. It's an HDD, not an SSD. And if you'll notice right next to it, if I actually move into the computer, there's some space right here. There's some space right there. And I could actually, there's some space right here in there. Do you see that opening right there? I could actually install one more hard disk drive right there inside my computer. And I could take this power supply right there, and I could plug it in the back of the hard disk drive, and then I get one more SATA cable, serial ATA cable, and I'd plug that serial ATA cable into my new hard disk drive, and then I'd come down here on my motherboard, and on my motherboard right here next to these other serial ATA cables, I have some openings where I'd be able to plug in that other serial ATA cable right down there. And it actually says SATA right next to it. But once I did that, I would actually have, it's okay for 1 second. Once I did that, I would actually have another hard drive installed on my computer and operational. So I could go on the web and I could search for hard disk drives, and I could order one and I could have it shipped to me, and then I could open up my case, my system unit, and I could install that hard disk drive right in there, and then just plug the power into it, plug a serial ATA cable into it, plug the serial ATA cable into my motherboard down there, and I would have another hard disk drive online and ready to use for more storage. And the benefits of that would be that I would be able to, take all of my data, like video files and things like that, and store it on a different place than where I'm storing my operating system. And that'll actually help my computer run a little bit more quickly if, not to let my main hard drive get too full or too crowded. You'll also notice one other thing up here at the top of the computer. So just to give you a little perspective there, there's the top. And this is my DVD drive right here, but again, I have an open space there where if I wanted to, I can install another DVD drive or Blu-ray drive or some other type of drive right there, could fit into that space. And then again, I could just plug the SATA cable into it, and I could plug the power into it, and I'd be set to go. And you'll notice on the front of the computer here, right? So that's the front of the computer, and if I open up this flap, there's my current DVD drive, but there's a flap right beneath that, right here, and when I open that flap up, there's just that metal grid right there. Well, that metal grid will come out if I wanted to install another drive. I would take that metal grid out, put the new drive in there, and then there are some screw holes. There are some screw holes right here where I would then screw that new drive in, because that's where the current drive is, and I'd add a new one right here. And with that new drive screwed in, I'd be able to have an additional drive on my computer. So one of the things people do when they create computers is when they create this system unit or the case for desktops like this, they give you room to expand the capabilities of the computer or to add to the computer. And so installing new drives, whether it's a DVD, Blu-ray drive, something like that, or a new hard disk drive or solid state drive, there are going to be areas within your computer where you could stick those new hardware components and plug them in and then bring them online so that you could start working with them. So it's kind of a cool thing to know about, that it's just that easy. I think the last thing I'll point out in this video is if I actually wanted to install a new hard disk drive, how would I get this little thing out right here so that I could put that new drive in there, because you could see it's kind of tight right there. So how do I get that new drive in there? And that would just be something I'd have to play with. Like, can I move these wires a little bit? Can I slide it in there? But then how do I screw it in? Does it just take a screw right there? I just have to play with that. And it might, some computers, some of this stuff will pop out. You know, so I'd look at this to see if this is one of those things that pops out. Or maybe right here, it looks like if I'm just feeling right here, these two screws come out right there, and this screw comes out right here, and it looks like this little metal component that holds the drives would slide right out, and I'd be able to put my new drive in, then slide this entire little metal case back in, and screw that case back in once I got my new drive in there. So that's just something you got to figure out with each computer, is how do you get the different components in and how do you secure them. That's it for this video. That's drives.